In a historic move, the Catholic Church has elected its first American Pope. The Albuquerque Public School Board passes its largest budget to date despite an enrollment decline. Senator Ben Ray Lujan and several other Congress members are urging the Trump administration to crack down on illegal firearm trafficking. And we hear from the host of the newest show from the Journal Podcast Network. From the Albuquerque Journal, this is the leading news. I'm Gino Gutierrez. Today is Friday, May 9th, and I'll have more on those stories plus a look at other headlines and the weather forecast on the other side of this break.
This episode is brought to you by the Kirtland Partnership Committee. For 30 years, we've been dedicated to supporting, growing, and preserving the Kirtland National Security Complex. We work tirelessly to enhance military readiness, foster community partnerships, improve quality of life, and promote economic development right here in New Mexico. Join us in our mission to ensure that Kirtland remains a cornerstone of national security and a key provider of quality jobs and investment for all of Greater Albuquerque. Together, we can make a powerful impact. Kirtland Partnership Committee, proudly shaping the future of our national security for 30 years.
In a historic move, the Catholic Church has elected its first American Pope. Robert Prevost, a 69-year-old Chicago-born Augustine missionary, will now lead the church as Pope Leo XIV. Known for decades of service in Peru, where he gained citizenship and served as a bishop, Prevost was long seen as a close ally of Pope Francis. His election marks both a break from and a continuation of tradition, returning to papal vestments Francis had set aside, while embracing Francis's emphasis on peace, inclusion, and dialogue. Prevost addressed a jubilant crowd at St. Peter's Square, emphasizing the church's mission to build bridges and welcome all. He avoided speaking English in his first public appearance, choosing instead Italian and Spanish, likely out of respect for his predecessor. The choice of the name Leo references both historical reform and the legacy of St. Francis through brother Leo, a close companion of the saint. Though traditionally taboo, a U.S. pope became more viable given Prevost's deep Peruvian ties and global experience. He was elevated by Francis in 2023 to oversee global bishop appointments, a key Vatican role. He was also instrumental in reforms that included women in church decision-making processes. His election thrilled crowds across the globe, particularly in Peru and the United States. President Trump called it a, quote, great honor for the country, while Catholic leaders noted the potential for Leo to unify a deeply divided American church. Vatican officials expect Pope Leo XIV to continue many of Francis's priorities while bringing his own grounding in missionary work and social justice. His first Mass as Pope is set for Friday, with a Sunday blessing and potential first foreign visit to Turkey for the 1,700th anniversary of the First Council of Nicea. For this next story, Journal reporter Nikayla McClellan sits down with education reporter Noah Kalabach to discuss APS's new budget.
I'm now joined with Journal education reporter Noah Alkalabach. Noah, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And so you just wrote a story about the APS board passing one of the largest budgets that they've ever passed before. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's correct. So despite declining student enrollment, which we've seen, across the country, and APS is no different, the board did pass its largest budget to date. It's going to come in at about $2.25 billion. And it comes at a time that the district is anticipating an enrollment of about 65,000 students or less for the upcoming school year.
And this is a really huge increase in the budget. So walk me through a little bit of that breakdown.
It's largely due to the influence of the state. They've kind of expanded their per unit funding, which refers to the amount of funding they give districts per student. In total, APS's budget funds about $35,000 per pupil per student. Last year, it was a little bit over $32,000. So there's an increase there as well.
And so this comes at a time when enrollment rates are a little bit lower than usual. So why the increase in budget still?
Well, I think a lot of districts across the country are dealing with this. APS is no exception to the declining enrollment that we've seen, especially since the pandemic hit. A lot of these districts are trying to right the ship. Obviously, we've seen the academic outcomes across the country and in APS as well have, the pandemic did not do great things for those numbers, to say the least. It's districts still spending money to try and get the best educational outcomes they possibly can.
And how does inflation account for for some of this budget?
Sure, yeah. Some people I spoke to mentioned that just rising costs are not just everyday, price of groceries and things like that. It weighs on districts as well. It could be the cost, for example, to keep the lights on in a school 5 years ago, 3 years ago, before inflation took off, was a lot lower than it is today. It should also be noted, too, that during the legislative session, there was a bill that passed and earned the governor's signature that does give a raise to teachers. So that is included in the operational part of the budget, which is pretty much half the budget.
Great. Well, I am joined with Noah Alcala-Bach. Thank you so much, Noah.
Thanks for having me.
Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, along with 13 other Democratic lawmakers, are urging the Trump administration to step up its efforts to combat firearms smuggling from the United States to Mexico. They argue that stopping the flow of American-made guns southward is essential to addressing the fentanyl crisis in the United States, as the same smuggling routes are often used to bring the deadly drugs northward. The call to action follows a major drug bust announced by Attorney General Pam Bondi. The 5-state operation led to the seizure of over 400 million fentanyl pills, 4.4 million in cash, and other drugs including methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine, as well as a cache of weapons. The bust underscores the deep connection between drug and weapon trafficking across the U.S.-Mexico border. Lujan and his colleagues want the administration to increase the interagency cooperation, enhance the inspections at border crossings, and crack down on, quote, straw purchasers, individuals who legally buy guns then resell them illegally. They also stress the importance of sharing intelligence with Mexican authorities to dismantle smuggling networks more effectively. Increasingly, this bipartisan concern seems to align with recent Trump administration moves. President Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum reportedly agreed in February to jointly fight fentanyl trafficking and illegal firearm movements. Additionally, Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently designated 8 Latin American cartels as foreign terrorist organizations.
So the senator is advocating for the Trump administration to really take advantage of these designations.
My colleague Kathy Cook is the federal government reporter at the Journal.
That Marco Rubio officially made in February. And they're foreign terrorist organization designations. So basically, Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, designated 8 Latin American cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. And so that plays some role in sort of like the deportation efforts that we've been hearing about from the Trump administration. But another thing that it does is that it makes it easier to sanction or fine people who are assisting those criminal organizations.
The lawmakers' letter is also backed by New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich and Representative Gabe Vasquez, highlighting a rare moment of cross-party alignment in tackling a deadly and complex issue that spans the national border. The Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network is getting ready to welcome a new show to our fold, What's Hot New Mexico, hosted by Journal reporter Nikayla McClellan. With more on what listeners can expect out of this new show, I'm now joined by Nikayla. Thank you so much for joining me.
Of course, Gino.
So, Nikayla, what can you tell us about this new show?
Yeah, so my newest show, What's Hot New Mexico, is basically a lifestyle podcast where we're going to be celebrating all of the talents in New Mexico. We're going to have artists, we're going to have performers, and anybody who's really making waves in the New Mexico scene, just to kind of celebrate the land of enchantment.
So, Nikayla, it sounds like you have a really cool format for this show. Who can we expect to see on it?
Yeah, so for my first interview, we had 2 performers from Somos. I'm hoping to bring in other musical talents, and I'd like to bring in talents that are off the beat. We might have a prediction goose coming onto the show too, so very entertainment forward.
And Nikayla, what's really exciting for me, and I think for our listeners as well, is, as you mentioned earlier, this is a lifestyle podcast, something we really don't have in our catalog right now. So you'll be able to dive into some stories and feature some individuals that we may have not known in the past.
Yeah, I'm super excited, and I just want to bring in a lot of new talents to the scene, and I really want to highlight all of the awesome things that New Mexico has to offer. A lot of people can call this place the land of enchantment and feel that we're such a small city, but there are so many interesting things going on in New Mexico, and I'm just trying to bring that to the light.
So very exciting news as the Albuquerque Journal Podcast Network gets ready to welcome What's Hot New Mexico, our newest lifestyle podcast. And for our listeners that are really excited about this, you won't have to wait long because the first episode is actually coming out today, so you'll be able to listen to it anywhere you get your podcasts. Journal reporter and now the host of What's Hot New Mexico, Nikayla McClellan, filling us in on the latest. Thank you so much, Nikayla.
Thanks, Gino.
In other headlines from the newsroom, Albuquerque City Councilor Dan Lewis is again calling for a federal investigation into the city's use of COVID-19 relief funds, this time directing the request to newly appointed U.S. Attorney Ryan Ellison. Lewis cited a 2023 report from the city's Office of Inspector General, which flagged around $280,000 in questionable bonuses paid to city employees using American Rescue Plan Act funds. The mayor's office disputes the findings, dismissing the OIG's report as biased and lacking credibility. The Oversight Board did not approve the OIG report, citing jurisdictional concerns. No disciplinary action was recommended. The U.S. Attorney's Office has received Lewis's request, but has not confirmed if an investigation is underway. And a stolen hot dog truck belonging to the Urban Hot Dog Company will be back in business after Albuquerque police recovered the vehicle at a smoke shop in the International District. Mormon Young was arrested and charged with receiving and transferring of a stolen vehicle. He and a woman were seen abandoning the white Dodge pickup truck and boarding a city bus after the truck's battery died. Urban Hot Dog Company owner Matthew Bernabe said the truck and trailer were stolen from a storage facility on May 1st. The trailer was recovered the next day. Young claimed he didn't know the truck was stolen, despite a destroyed ignition and broken door handle. This is the latest in a string of thefts for Bernabe, whose 2 restaurant locations were both targeted in January. Despite the setbacks, he remains optimistic about doing business in Albuquerque, saying, quote, "We're also doing pretty great." If you like hearing all of the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal here on the Leading News, consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal. You can check our show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription and keep up with all the latest news from New Mexico's leading news source. Now taking a look at Albuquerque's weather forecast, isolated showers and thunderstorms are expected after 8 p.m., sunny with a high near 78. And as for this evening, partly cloudy skies are expected with a low around 49. To keep up with all the latest news from the Albuquerque Journal, you can visit our website at abqjournal.com. That's the Leading News. I'm Gino Gutierrez. We'll be back on Monday.